and we made them at great distance. If we did not win the quote, it was an expense that we had. That's an expense of doing business. You do that in order to win quotations, win jobs. Now, the expenses that Molinaro has come up with, and I'm sure he's in the 50% bracket on his profits, whatever he writes off, now people don't understand this, whatever you write off, you save that in tax. If he writes off $1, he's saving 50 cents. And he's going to write this off, so 50% of it's coming back to him. He's going to do that anyway. What he's going to sue you for is not much. He can't. But I implore you, you should look into this. And you should seek outside counsel. This is something that I think you should definitely do. Lastly, if I can find it here quickly, because I know I'm running out of time. I have a sheet, this last one, and here's the deal the council made with the Molinaro Group. The Molinaro got $2.7 million worth of prime beachfront property currently owned by the public, plus permission to build a 12-story condo tower overlooking Bay Beach. 2, instead of paying the town for the property, the Molinaro Group worked out a barter deal to provide the following community benefits. Hey, listen, all this is reasonable in a way, but Molinaro pays a third of the cost of the new storm water system, a third, to accommodate the runoff caused by the large condo building. Taxpayers pay the remaining at least $400,000. Molinaro pays half the cost of the new seawall that must be built to keep the condo's underground parking garage from flooding. Taxpayers pay the remainder of the $280,000, at least $280,000. Molinaro builds a new washroom, change room facility close to the water in a flood hazard zone. Taxpayers pay all future repair replacements costs, likely to be large. Molinaro pays for a 2,200 square foot meeting room inside the building. Taxpayers pay $45,000 per year operating costs and repair and replacement costs for a public facility that will have to be rented because it's going to be empty during the wintertime. Molinaro installs pattern paving stone around the condo tower on the roof of the underground parking lot. Taxpayers pay for repair, replacement costs, and for its 30,000 square foot outdoor plaza. Molinaro does major reconstruction of 4 roads near the condo tower. Molinaro spends no more than $740,000.
You have 1 minute, Mr.
Pardon me?
You have 1 minute.
Okay. I was just about to thank you. Molinaro upgrades 2 public parking lots across the street, spending no more than $350,000, and adds landscaping and benches on the east side, all of which help him selling condo units. You be the judge. Is this fair? $2.7 million in return for that? Now, one last thing. The people that signed that affidavit and were against this condominium were before anyway, and your constituents have spoken. And as far as I'm concerned, you have a mandate here to follow it. There is not a mandate to follow the other. I say, you can stop this, stop it now.
Any questions to reserve? Lund, do you want to come back? There are questions of you. Lund, do you want to come back? There are questions of you. Councilor Collard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Lund. Thank you very much for your presentation. I noticed in some of your comments you mentioned that we were unfettered by the previous council's decision, and that this council should seek outside legal advice on the contract. I'm just wondering if you have done so, and are these your interpretations of what's in the contract, or have you also seek outside legal information?
I think you'll find it in that part in the OMB decision where they say you are unfettered by their decision. What their decision is about is what the legality of that bylaw, and that is true. I hope I've answered your question. Have I consulted outside lawyers as to how much it's going to cost? Is that what you meant?
Councilor Collard.
Thank you, Worship. Just for clarification, in terms of the contract itself, I believe you said that we should seek outside legal information on the contract. I'm wondering if you have done so, the contents of this contract, or are these your opinions of what you think are in the contract and your interpretation?
It's not my interpretation of what's there. It is what's there, and I have not sought outside legal. I would encourage you to do so, though, because if you are in doubt, you were one of the ones that signed that said you were against this, were you not? Yeah. Now, if you have, for some reason, you think that you changed your mind, then you should seek outside
Mr.
advice. Yes, I'm sorry.
You're to address council, you're not to speak individually to certain members of council. You're to address council as a whole.
Council as a whole. Okay. I'm sorry. How do I do that? He asked the question, and through the mayor.
You were having a conversation with a councilor about a certain situation.
No, I'm not having a confrontation at all. I'm trying to explain.
Keep your comments to the council as a whole, not to an individual councilor.
Okay. I was just trying to explain to him he was one of the people who did sign that. He should look for counsel.
Anything further, Councilor Collard? Anything further from anyone? Councilor Cyril.
Thank you, Mr. Lund, for being here this evening. I did want to draw your attention back and just try and get some more information from you with regards to the one sentence you were pointing out earlier, that the new council is not bound to support the previous council's decision on zoning bylaw 2610. The new council can exercise its full authority and is not fettered. And you said that later on in the decision, Mr. Rossi noted that we have the authority to exercise our full legislative powers. It's been explained to me that our legislative powers have to do with the zoning of the property. And you're correct in that we can apply for rezoning through this council. We can do that. But the contract is under contract law. We as a council, unless you can tell me differently this evening, how do we get ourselves out of a contract without possible litigation?
You are liable to litigation, but it's not likely that you will have any. And on top of that, you have not a contract yet. You have intent. There are things that have to be, excuse me.
Members of the audience, would you please allow the delegation and the members of council to speak? If you want to have conversations, you can do so in the lobby. Thank you very much, Mr. Lund.
Yeah. If you look at that, and I would hope that you would read it, that the OMB, Mr. Rossi, said you have, because of at the time, he knew that there were councilors, and there was incumbent councilors and 3 others that opposed this, which made it 4-3. And he says it right in that OMB decision. So I doubt whether he'd be saying that if he didn't mean that you could do as you pleased afterwards. Does that satisfy you? I don't know whether that satisfies you or not. Do you still have a further question?
Through you, Mayor Martin. My question is regards to, I'm not debating with you what it says.
Oh, okay.
I agree with you 100%. What I'm asking you is that what he's saying is we have the ability to authorize our full legislative powers. The only legislative powers we have as a council in regards to this is to rezone the property. That is a legislative power of this council. We as a council cannot walk away from a contract, and we do have a contract. And I know that you gave us possibly 4 outs to that contract, but we cannot walk away from a contract. The contract is signed between the Molinaro Group, or whatever the development is being called, the Gateway Project, and the town of Fort Erie. Not this council. This council cannot walk away from that contract. So we're not fettered. We can walk away, but there are consequences to that. That's the contract. We have our legislative powers. We can rezone the property. That is one of the outs. But there are ramifications to that, and that's what we have been seeking legal advice on. And I did just want to point out through you, Chair, that one of the 4 outs, just as a for instance, any party who determines that the conditions with respect to the M&R permit are unacceptable shall have 10 days from the date of issuance of the M&R permit. As one of those 4 outs, when the M&R permit comes to us, we can't just say that we disagree with your findings. We have to have a basis to disagree with that permit to get out of this contract. These 4 outs are not available to us at any point in time, even with the 10-day time frame. There has to be a reason why we disagree with the M&R's findings, or the NPCA's findings, or the overall benefit permit for the Fowler's Toad. We can't just utilize one of these 4 outs at our will and choosing.
I think you should look to outside to the mayor, to you, I think you should look for outside advice on this as far as legal. I think you will find that you do have options, and that you could even say that you can't afford it at this time because of the increase that it's going to cause to your constituents in the form of taxes, because of all the ongoing. See, you've already spent $100,000 on pre-planning this. You've spent more on all the rest of this stuff. Now, can you afford the more right now? We're in a recession. And you could say we can't afford it right now even. And I don't think that the Molinaro would have a prayer in court. And that's something you haven't tested. I think you should look at other, it's like going to a doctor and then say, well, I want a second opinion. I think you should.
Your chair.
So your suggestion would be roll the dice, see what happens. You're suggesting to me that we not spend the additional money to continue this fight on, but roll the dice and see what the Molinaros come back with as far as trying to get out of this contract.
My suggestion was you should seek other advice, legal advice. If you have doubts, if you have apprehension, you should definitely do it. And if you don't do it, I don't think you're doing your job.
Councilor Passero, my apologies to the audience. Anything further?
No, nothing further, Mr. Lund. Thank you.
Anything further, Councilor Hill?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Lund, within your presentation you had directed us to the purchase and sale agreement, and within the context of that direction you were looking or drawing our attention to, condition number 4, which was the conditions for the benefit of the buyer and the town. That's okay, you don't... Okay. Okay. Now also in your remarks you had indicated that this is in fact a contingent contract, and a contingent contract being one that is fully exercised once all the contingencies have been fulfilled. Now from the standpoint of our ability to fulfill or exercise, as the OMB has talked about, our legislative powers, within this, would not one of our powers then be to amend, repeal bylaw number 2610 as a element that would fall under our legislative powers?
I'd be wrong in giving you legal advice that way to the mayor. I'd be wrong in giving you that legal advice. It has been told to me by people who have, and I suggest that you find that out. That's a good question, and that you should go forward with that, and you shouldn't be stopped by going forward. You have a perfect right to find out through outside legal advice. And I know I was here on Monday night when Councilor Don Luberts tried to get that going, and was blocked, and it finally I guess died. I had to leave by the time, but yeah, I think you should. You would be doing your job.
Anything further to the delegation? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Martha Lockwood, 134 Belvedere.
Good evening, Mayor Martin, members of council. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm here to speak for the progression, construction, and completion of the Crystal Beach Gateway project, as well as future development throughout the town of Fort Erie. Many look to municipal government to save a community. While they want to make things better, at the same time, they don't want anything to change. As a previous councillor, it became very clear, very quickly, that your power and influence is limited. All councils are governed by the Municipal Act, which is determined by the provincial government. Provincial government is regulated by federal, and throw the region into the mix, and there are limitations to what council can and cannot do. If the new councillors have not realized this, they will soon. One of the things we can do is look for creative, fiscally responsible ways to improve our community. to look beyond the status quo and
And that was not what the motion on Monday night was read, said. This decision requires much more deliberation and research before that vote was taken. The OMB decision was only days old. It is a document